Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and today I'm going to be scrapbooking using the Brighter Days kits from MercyTiara Kits. And I'm also going to be using this sketch that you see on the screen there. That is a sketch from Christine Davidson, and her information is linked in the information section for this video and for every video because I love Christine's sketches. She's with Creative Scrapper. She is Creative Scrapper. And so I'm going to be using this sketch. And this sketch is actually the sketch that I picked out as the June challenge over on MercyTiara Kits Facebook group. And so if you are interested in playing along, there's actually a prize. It's a $25 gift card to MercyTiara Kits. So make sure that you're a member of our Facebook group and check out the sketch and the instructions for how to play along. And basically you just create a layout using the sketch and post it in a comment on the main post on that group, and you're in. So I am obviously using the Brighter Days kit here, so that is what I have pulled out, and I'm just having a look at the supplies because it's been a couple days since I've scrapbooked, and even though I'm pretty familiar with this kit because I've been working with it for a while from the design phase, I'm still needing to remind myself of what exactly is in this kit. I know that I want to scrapbook this photo of my daughter. It's a slightly different shape because my phone was set to a different aspect ratio for taking pictures, and so it took the picture with the whole screen of my phone, and so that ends up being a 3.5, just a little bit less than 3.5 by 6-inch photo. And so that gives me this really nice elongated look, which I think really suits this particular photo because she is kind of bending over and leaning over a bunch of boxes. Those were kits. And so if you subscribe to MercyTiara Kits, your kit might be one of those. I'm just looking at all of the stuff from the kit here, and including even the tissue paper that comes wrapped, that your kit will come wrapped in. So I was thinking about using that as a layer, but not on this photo because it's black and white. I don't really want to go too far into the browns for this page, but I'm really leaning towards good stuff as being my title, and I'm kind of making my way back to that sketch. Early on, I wasn't sure if I was going to want to use the sketch or just kind of make this layout be off the top of my head, but I have decided to go ahead and use the sketch. But I'm just playing around with figuring out what will be my background paper here, and I'm going to go ahead and use this ledger paper. This is from Simple Stories. Everything that I'm using today came in the kit. It is from Flea Market, and the paper is called Tell the Story, and I really love it. I've already used the back side of it for another project, but I do have the extra paper kit this month, so the extra paper add-on, so I do have another piece of it, so that's what I'm using here. Now, this paper is from the Pink Fresh Studio Delightful collection. It's called Full Color, and I really, really love it. I was thinking about using the back of this, which has the swatches of color, but I decided that I really love this geometric pattern. It looks like a bunch of cubes layered on top of one another. I really love this pattern. It's one of my favorite scrapbooking patterns of all time, so I'm happy to use this one. I am using my little Cutter Bee scissors by EK Success to cut these. You can use bigger scissors too. I was using my bigger scissors earlier on, but I just find that I have a little bit more control with these small scissors. If you do a whole lot of scrapbooking, it's really worthwhile to purchase a set of small fussy cutting scissors, just because it really does give you a lot more control in these little tight corners that you have to kind of cut around. So mine are EK Success, and they're the Cutter Bee ones. And I think that mine are the Honey Cutter Bee ones because they have a Teflon coating on them so that they don't stick to stickers if you cut them apart. So as you can see, I'm using that little piece of the not Paige Evans, but the Pink Fresh Studio Full Color paper from Delightful Collection. I'm using that as a strip behind my photo. I'm thinking about matting my photo with this paper, but you know what? I think I'm going to not mat it. I find that this photo, because it's big and it's an unusual size. It has quite a bit of kind of presence on the page without matting it. I've been matting my photos a lot lately, so I decided to just go for a slightly different look here. So I'm not going to mat this one. Now, the sketch calls for some vertical strips in the main cluster, but also some vertical strips over here in the smaller secondary cluster over on the right-hand side of the sketch. So I'm going to cut out, again, fussy cutting along, just following the pattern, another second strip of that. And this time I'm only cutting one strip of the cubes. And the first time for the first strip, I did cut two strips of it was one strip that I cut, but it was two layers of those cubes. So it's a wider swatch. Now, at first I did tear that gold foil paper is beautiful. There's one in the main kit and also another copy of it in the extra paper add-on. But I did tear it at first, but I actually decided that for this layout, it has a really clean, crisp look with that graph paper. It's actually ledger paper in the background. And so I decided to not tear my edges on this one. So I went ahead and recut those strips. I'll keep the other strips because I have another idea of what to do with that paper. So I'll just use that for another idea. And here, even though I decided not to tear that, I decided I would tear this one. Now, this is the Daydreams paper from Pink Fresh Studio. It is also from the Delightful collection. And I really love this really nice, rich yellow color. It's almost a mustard, maybe a golden yellow, we might call it. And so this is what I'm using as my large main layered paper for the main cluster. And then there's a smaller chunk of it over here in the secondary cluster. The secondary cluster is going to be over to the right, but it's also going to sit a bit lower on the page than the main cluster. So that's what I'm doing there. Now, I decided to take this Paige Evans paper and the one that looks like labels, and that also came in the kit. This one really caught my eye because it's this really deep purpley blue color, and I adore it, and it just adds a lot to the page, I find. So I was going to cut 3 different labels that were 3 different colors, but I liked the impact that had on the page so much that I decided to repeat it. And repeating is a design principle that really helps your page look pulled together, just repeating certain elements. And the rule of 3s is that things look good in 3s because it provides some balance on the page, and it just kind of guides your eye around on the page. So I'm going to use 3 of these in 3 different places, and where I put them is going to determine where I will be basically considering these 3 little miniature clusters. So I have 2 big clusters, like the main one and then the secondary one. But then also on the page, I have these 3 other repeating clusters that are, 2 of them are tied into the secondary cluster, and the other one is going to sit just below the primary cluster. I'm playing around with whether I want to use washi tape as one of my strips behind my photo, but I'm deciding not to do that. And if you got the kit, you will have received 1 skinny set of washi tape and 1 wider set of washi tape. Because I designed the kits, I have extra washi with me, and so I have both of them in my stash because of that. So I was just kind of playing around with which one might look the best. Now, this is my new journaling pen that I really, really love. It's a Faber-Castell Artist Pitt pen, and it is in the color, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this, but it's Indanthrine Blue 247, and I have the superfine tip. It came in a set of other markers of other colors, and the other colors are really gorgeous too, but I have just really gravitated towards this pen, and I love it for my journaling, especially when I'm using a page where navy blue is my accent instead of black. So it's a really nice alternative. It's nice to have a black pen and a brown pen, but I really love having a blue-based pen to do some journaling in and outlining as well. So I decided to outline, and as I was chatting there, I outlined just the yellow pattern paper there, the yellow polka dot one. And as I mentioned at the beginning, my title for this one is going to be Good Stuff. I kind of settled on that fairly early on. And I love these self-made titles that you can just pull off and use all in one. This is the third time I've used these puffy stickers from the Simple Stories flea market collection on, this is my third layout I've created with this kit. And all 3 times so far, I've used these as my titles or portions of my titles. And the other 2 times I outlined the outside edges of the letters to add impact. And in this one, I'm not going to do that. I'm mindful that all of these pages are going to end up beside one another in my scrapbook album. And so I'm trying to make them look varied from one another, so that the scrapbook doesn't end up having a repetitive feel to it. Although I've never found, I've scrapbooked with kits for years and years and years, and I've never found that my pages have a repetitive feeling to them other than when I scrapbook with collections. So because kits have a nice combination of different collections, it's a little bit easier to have variety among your pages. You saw me flirting with the idea of matting that photo on black. I'm really stuck on that idea of matting, but I really want to leave it as it is. I found that matting it in black, it threw off the page because I already have those purpley navy labels on there, and I didn't really want to introduce black and then have to repeat it someplace else. So I'm going to leave the photo, and I really do think that it has plenty of presence on the page because of the size of it relative to everything else, and also just the shape of it. I think it just really grabs your eye. So now I'm just going back with my ATG, which is my Scotch Advanced Tape Glider, I think is what that ATG stands for. Anyhow, I'm using that, which is one of my favorite tape runners. And I'm using that to adhere everything down the way that I had planned. Now you see that I did cut one of those labels in half, and that's because I want to customize it. I don't want all 3 of these labels to be exactly the same size. And my little hack, it's literally a hack because you hack the label in half. But my little hack for changing the sizes of labels is just to cut it in half and then layer it upon itself so that it looks smaller. Now you will see the line where it's glued back together again, but you can do all sorts of things. You can either leave it and trust that the viewer isn't going to look that closely at it, or you can cover it up in various ways. I'm going to cover mine up a little bit, but you don't really have to. I'm adding a couple of other labels to these, to the labels that I have on the page already. I also added this little subtitle here that says Story of Today. I just thought that it looked really nice layered with those boxes. It accentuated those horizontal lines in the photo by kind of sitting on one of the ledges of the box. I think it looks really nice there, and I like it extending off onto the pattern paper behind it. Now here you're going to see how I'm customizing this label. Cut it in half, and then you just layer it upon itself so that the lines line up. And then if you don't like that little edge showing, I really don't mind, but if you don't like it, you can just do what I'm doing here, which is covering it up with a few other things. So I have a die cut piece here that I'm using, and I'm just adding some, it might be a sticker, I think it's a die cut piece. And I'm using some dimensional adhesive just to give a bit of interest here. And I'm talking about the bags that I store my stickers in because I was filming a real-time process video here. I do film real times for all of my videos, and they're available over on my Patreon, which you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, and you get access to everything over there. It's really just real times are the big difference between what's available on my YouTube channel and what's available over on my Patreon, but I also do live streams as well. So as you can see, I am just gluing down some of these things that I had already decided where they go, but I just didn't use enough adhesive the first time, so I'm just adding some there. And I'm feeling pretty happy with how this layout is coming along. I want to pop up this little cluster of 2 labels, but before I do so, I'm going to do some stamping on one of them. So the yellow one that says treasure this moment, I'm going to put the roller date stamp, the date on it using my roller date stamp. And I just grabbed Night of Navy, which is a navy blue ink from Stampin' Up, and I stamped that there. I'm just gonna clean up my stamp a little bit by stamping the extra ink onto the back of the sketch piece of paper I have there. And next, I'm going to do some journaling. I was going to do my journaling in that blue pen I was telling you about, or purple, or whatever that color is, but then I decided it's a purple label, so to add a little tiny bit of contrast, I'm going to use my black pen. It's my black Sharpie pen, and it just says Liv helps out in the warehouse. She was helping out. She was helping. I was working, and Scott and she were packing orders. And then when they were all done, I came down. I was finished work, and they were just chatting. And so I came and joined them. And she was just kind of casually leaning over the boxes like that. They were stacked from the floor all the way up to above her waist. And so she was just kind of like leaning on them as she chatted. And I thought she looked amazing there. So I took a little snapshot, a little behind the scenes snap of our day. I'm having a look at what other embellishments I might want to use here. I really love these vellum embellishments from Pink Fresh Studio from the Delightful collection. They came in the kit, of course. And so I am going to figure out where else I might want to put them. I thought that having a little bit of vellum extending out from behind these labels might look nice. And then if I'm putting vellum there, let's put it up here as well, just to repeat that. Repetition is another design principle besides well, I think I already talked about repetition. I might mention some of the other ones because there's a few elements here that a few design principles at work here. There's the rule of thirds or the visual triangle, which I have a triangle that is created by the three dark blue or purpley labels, creates a visual triangle on my page. And then we're repeating by adding, we've got the three labels, and then we have some layering amongst those labels with the like the vellum in particular. And so I did tear that vellum because I thought I was going to tuck it, and then I decided to not. And so because it's torn and then glued back together again, I thought I'd layer another little sticker from Pink Fresh Studio on top of it. And now this is the only thing from my stash that was not included in the kit. And these are Tim Holtz Chit Chats, I think they're called. They're little phrases. And it's nice to have those on hand so you don't have to pull out a typewriter every single time you want to add a little phrase sticker to something. Now see how when I added that, boy, that just draws your attention to that phrase sticker. And it's just a little phrase. It's not a main part of my story or anything. So I immediately took it off when I realized how much it was throwing off the page. I don't want to, if I wanted to direct your attention really strongly to something, it would be the photo or the journaling or something, not just some random phrase sticker that doesn't have much impact. So I didn't know what to put on that label there, so I ended up just cutting off a little phrase from one of the other stickers, and it just says always dreaming, and I just added it there. Now I do want to add a little bit more journaling besides the little caption that's on that label, and so I'm just figuring out what I'm going to do here. I got a little distracted from my journaling, but I'm just going to place my journaling right underneath of that yellow box of paper there. And it just says, at 18, Liv is fun to just hang out with. And she's at that age where, you know, we don't have to force her to come and have talks with us anymore, or share her day, or, you know, talk to her about stuff. She just wants to hang out and chat with us casually about her day or asking us about our day. And so that's really what I wanted this layout to be all about. And so again, with repetition, I'm going to introduce one of these chipboard flares to two places because these are chipboard flare stickers from Pink Fresh Studio. And I already had something that looks a lot like a chipboard flare on the third label there. It's that circular sticker or die cut piece that I'm putting my finger on right now. So that looks, it's exactly the same. It just doesn't have the dimension, but I did pop it up. So it actually ends up having that dimension. Now you'll notice that this label cluster right here does not have a piece of that striped vellum. So I was thinking, I think I want to put another piece of vellum here just so that all three of these repetition clusters are similar. So as you see, I sacrificed a little embellishment there and just grabbed the stripy vellum from it and layered it there so that I have that repetition in all three of those parts of my visual triangle. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is proximity, because that's another design principle that I don't often mention. Proximity means placing things close together for visual impact. So here we have two main clusters because we have a bunch of things over on the left, which is what I'm calling my primary cluster, that everything is in close proximity. They're sort of overlapped and be close to one another. And then we have a secondary cluster over on the right-hand side and slightly lower, where everything is in close proximity to one another. And because my photo is larger than in the sketch, I wanted to keep a bit more separation between my two clusters. So you'll notice that my cluster has more space between my layout has more space between the two clusters, whereas in the sketch, the two clusters almost touch each other and become one. I wanted mine to have a different feel than that. And having a vertical photo kind of helps with that, because if my photo was horizontal, the two would have to be closer together. But what this does is it also emphasizes the unusual size and shape of that photo, which I kind of like that about this photo. So I thought I'd like to emphasize it, since it's what I consider to be a strength of the photo, is the way that the photo itself is designed or composed, I guess. Now, the Brighter Days embellishment kit comes with this exclusive confetti mix that I'm working with right now. You get 2 teaspoons of this beautiful confetti mix that has a chartreuse green and a navy blue and a light blue and also a really, really pale iridescent pink. And I am picking out the green. I don't want the green ones on this page, but I do want the navy blue, the light blue, and the pink to show up. Now, these little pieces of confetti, they're basically like sequins, but they don't have the holes in the center. And each color has 3 different sizes. So even if you picked out all of just one color, you'd still have a lot of variation on your page. So you could use these as a mix, as the way that I designed it, but you can also pick out the little pieces that you want and still have nice variety, and I think it would look great on your pages. So I am using those 3 colors, the dark blue, the light blue, and the pink. And basically as you saw, I just kind of scattered them in the 3 places. So I'm designing these to go, or I'm sprinkling them around each of those 3 purpley blue labels. And I want them to look just kind of like randomly scattered there. So that's why I scattered them. But then there were too many and there were some green. So I just kind of edited it down. So I took some of them out. I'm demonstrating here that there are basically, I'm showing you 3 different ways. There's more than 3 ways, but the first set of confetti pieces, I used my fingers and the glue. I'm using this Stampin' Up tool, which is it has a picker upper on one end of it. It's a tool that you can change both ends of it to suit your needs. And I can't remember the name of it, but it is from Stampin' Up. But you can get these pickers anywhere. They're like little for picking up gems or whatever. I have this one, and I'm just demonstrating how you can use your fingers like I did the first time, which can be pretty tedious, or you can use a picker-upper tool like this. And the glue that I'm using here, by the way, is Multi-Medium Matte by Ranger. And I just like the size of the bottle and how squeezy it is, and it doesn't get clogged. And I just enjoy working with that product. Now, one thing that I did a few minutes ago that you might have seen is I took some Tombow Mono Multi, which is a 2-way glue, which means that if you use it when it's wet, it dries as a permanent adhesive. But if you let it air dry, it becomes a temporary adhesive. So I just put a bit of that on the end of this tool, which is actually a rubbing tool for applying rub-ons. And then I just let that dry while I use the other tool for the other cluster. And now you can see that you can actually make your own picker-upper tool just by using some Tombow Mono Multi adhesive, letting it air dry so that it's tacky, and then it will pick up these sequins or confetti pieces very, very nicely. And then you can just place it in the little blob of glue that you use. Now, for gluing these whether it's sequins or these confetti pieces, anything plastic, I would recommend that you use either something like this multi-matte medium that I'm using here from Ranger, or you could use Tombow Mono Multi as well. I would not recommend that you use that Tombow Aqua in the blue bottle that I just showed a few seconds ago, because that one, sometimes things will kind of peel off if you're gluing plastic to paper. That one's a lot better for gluing paper to paper. As you see, my very last touch was that I added an enamel dot in that blue color. It's like that color wasn't showing up enough in the layout, so that's why I added that one in those 3 places. Here I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. They were in the screen just before this one. I really appreciate all of their support, and they do really help make this channel happen, so thanks to them. Here are some of the close-ups of this page. As you can see, this one turned out so beautifully. I just love how these colors work together. And there's the page from a distance. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out some of these other videos if you haven't seen them yet. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And ring the bell if you'd like to get notifications for all of my videos. Take good care and have a really great scrappy week.